The gods cannot enjoy the sacrifices of foreign races, and people do not worship the gods of foreign races. This sentence comes from Zuo Zhuan. Zuo Zhuan is a chronological history book with complete narrative in ancient China. This is the story of two brothers. The elder brother is a person who only thinks about others. Even if it is someone who harms him, he would rather die himself than harm the interests of others. The younger brother is the opposite of the elder brother. The younger brother is a person who only thinks about himself. Even if he is kind to him, as long as it may harm his own interests, the younger brother will kill him. The elder brother was killed by his stepmother, and when the younger brother became the king, a strange thing happened when he rebuilt the grave for his elder brother. Qi Jiang is the daughter of Duke Huan of Qi. Married Jin Wugong as a concubine for the first time. Jin Wugong was too old to have sex, so Jin Xiangong had an affair with Qi Jiang and had a son named Xinsheng. After Jin Xiangong succeeded to the throne, he took Qi Jiang as his wife and Xinsheng as the prince. Later, Qi Jiang gave birth to another daughter, Mu Ji, Mrs. Qin Mugong. Qi Jiang died very young. Jin Xiangong had 8 sons, among which Prince Xinsheng, the son Chong'er, and the son Yiwu were the most virtuous. Duke Xian of Jin loved Li Ji very much, so he gradually alienated the 3 sons. Because Li Ji was favored by Duke Xian of Jin, she wanted to make her son Shi Qi the crown prince. Duke Xian of Jin said to Li Ji in private, "I want to depose the prince and let Shi Qi be the prince." Li Ji cried and said, "The prince is registered, and the princes already know, and he has led the army several times, and the people support him. Abolish the legitimate son and replace it with the bastard because of me, a bitch? If you want to do that, I will commit suicide." Therefore, Li Ji won the trust of Jin Xiangong. Li Ji came up with a plan to kill Prince Xinsheng. Li Ji said to Prince Xinsheng, "Jin Xiangong once dreamed of your mother Qi Jiang, and asked you to go to Zuo to make a sacrifice, and when you come back, offer the sacrifice to Jin Xiangong." Prince Xinsheng then went to Zuo to offer sacrifices to his mother Qi Jiang, and brought back gizzard meat for Jin Xiangong to eat. At the time, Jin Xiangong was out hunting, and Li Ji put the gizzard meat in the palace, and secretly sent someone to poison the gizzard meat. A few days later, when Jin Xiangong came back from hunting, the cook presented the gizzard meat to Duke Jin Xiangong, and Jin Xiangong wanted to eat the gizzard meat. Li Ji stopped Jin Xiangong from the side and said, "The gizzard meat comes from far away, you should test whether it can be eaten." She gave the gizzard meat to the dog, and the dog died, gave it to the eunuch in the palace, and the eunuch died too. Li Ji cried and said, "Why is the prince so cruel? He wants to kill his father, and he replaces you, let alone other people? Besides, the father is old and will die sooner or later, so he can't wait to murder you." Li Ji then said to Jin Xiangong, "The prince did this only because of me and Shi Qi. I hope that my mother and son can hide in other countries, or commit suicide earlier, so that the mother and son will not be abused by the prince in vain. Earlier you wanted to abolish him, but I opposed you, only now do I know that I was completely wrong in this matter." Prince Xinsheng heard the news and fled to the new city of Zuo. Duke Xian of Jin was furious and killed Du Yuanquan, the teacher of Prince Xinsheng. Someone said to Prince Xinsheng, "It was Li Ji who put the poison. If you argue, Prince, your father will definitely understand." Prince Xinsheng said, "My father is old. Without Li Ji, he would have restless sleep and poor food. If I defend myself, Li Ji must be guilty. My father is old and Li Ji is guilty, which will make my father unhappy, and I will also be depressed." Another person said to Prince Xinsheng, "Then you can flee to another country." Prince Xinsheng said, "Father has not found out my case and fled with the charge of killing my father. Who will accept me? I'll kill myself." On December 27, Prince Xinsheng hanged himself in Zuo, a new city. Li Ji slandered the two of them again to Duke Xian of Jin, saying, "Prince Xinsheng put poison in gizzard meat." Both Yiwu and Chong'er knew about this. When Yiwu and Chong'er heard the news, they were very frightened. So Chong'er fled to Puyi, and Yiwu fled to Tsui. Jin Xiangong was angry that his 2 sons left without saying goodbye, thinking that they had the intention of rebellion. They sent troops to attack Puyi. Chong'er fled to the state of Jiayi. Duke Xian of Jin dispatched troops to attack Chui, and Yiwu fled to Lianglai in September of 651 BC, the 26th year of Duke Xiangong of Jin dynasty. Duke Xiangong of Jin dynasty passed away in November. Rick and others killed Shi Qi and Daozi, and sent people to Jiayi to meet Chong'er, hoping to support him as the monarch. Chong'er thanked him and said, "I disobeyed my father's order and ran away. When my father died, I couldn't attend the funeral according to the etiquette of a son, how dare I go back home? I also ask you to let other sons be kings. The messenger reported back to Rick, and Rick sent someone to Lianghua to meet Yiwu. Yiwu wanted to go back, but Lu Xing and Shuerui said, there are other people in the country who can be made kings, but come to you abroad, they cannot be trusted. It is estimated that if you don't go to Qin state first and return to Jin state without the help of Qin state's power, I'm afraid you will be in danger. So Yiwu sent Shuerui to bribe Qin Mugon with a big gift, promising, if you can send troops to protect and help me return to the country, I am willing to cede the Hushi area of Jin state to Qin state. And sent a letter to Rick saying, if I can be established as the king, I would like to seal the city of Fenyang to you. Qin Mugon then sent troops to send Yiwu back to Jin. Yiwu became the king of the state and became Duke of Jin. Duke of Jin broke his promise and sent Pishing to apologize to Duke Mu of Qin, saying, I promised to give you Hushi, and now I have the honor to return to the country and become the king. The ministers said, the land is the land of the first king. Why did you arbitrarily promise the land to Qin when you fled abroad? It's no use arguing with them, so apologies. So he did not cede the land to Qin. Moreover, Duke Hui of Jin did not grant Rick the city of Fenyang, but took his power instead. In April of 650 BC, the first year of Jin Hui, King Xiang of Zhou sent Zhou Gongji's father to visit Jin Hui Gong together with the officials of Qi and Qin. Because Chong'er was still abroad, Jin Hui Gong was afraid that Rick would launch a coup, so he gave Rick death, said to Rick, I can't succeed to the throne without you. Even so, you also killed 2 monarchs and 1 prime minister. It is too difficult to be your monarch. Rick replied, I will not abolish the old king. How can you have a chance to be established as a king? You want to kill me, but you can't find an excuse? But you say such things, I just obey the order. So Rick committed suicide with his sword. In the first year of Jin Hui Gong, the 10th year of Lu Shigong, 650 BC, Xin Shang's different mother and younger brother Jin Hui Gong reburied Xin Shang according to the etiquette. In the autumn of the same year, when Xin Shang was still alive, Hu Tu was the driver of Xin Shang's car. When Hu Tu came to Tsuwa, he met Xin Shang's ghost. Xin Shang boarded Hu Tu's car and said to him, Jin Hui Gong is rude. I have asked the Emperor of Heaven and got his consent. I am going to give Jin to Qin. Qin will sacrifice to me. Hu Tu replied, I heard that the gods cannot enjoy the sacrifices of other clans, and the people do not sacrifice to other clans. After the state of Jin is given to the state of Qin, I am afraid that no one will sacrifice to you anymore? And what is the crime of the people? The punishment is inappropriate, and the sacrifice is cut off. Please think about it. Xin Shang said, you are right, then I will ask the Emperor of Heaven again. 7 days later, there will be a witch in the west of Tsuwa, and he will manifest my spirit. After Hu Tu agreed, Xin Shang disappeared instantly. Hu Tu went to Tsuwa on time to meet the witch. The shaman told him, the Emperor of Heaven promised to punish the sinners, and Jin Hui Gong will be defeated in Hanyuan. So a nursery rhyme sang, Prince Gong will be reburied. The state of Jin will not be prosperous in the next 14 years, and prosperity will wait for his elder brother. 14 years after Jin Hui Gong reburied Xin Shang, the Jin state was defeated in the Battle of Hanyuan, and the Jin state was no longer prosperous. After Xin Shang's other half-brother Chong'er came to the throne, the state of Jin gradually prospered. When the ancestors of one's own nation become gods after death, they will only bless their own descendants. Those who are not of the same race are not of the same type, and those who are not of the same type cannot be of one mind. Therefore, for people who are not of my race, their hearts must be different. Different races lead to different thoughts, and different thoughts lead to different kinds. This is the reason why the Han people want to destroy the Hmong people. Foreign races destroy our Hmong people all the time, but we Hmong people don't know how to unite. The reason why Chiyu, the ancestor of the Hmong nationality, was anxious. If you have the same thoughts, you will have the same heart, and if you have the same heart, you will have the same aspirations. Therefore, only the same nation can be of one heart and one mind. The gods worshipped by foreigners are obviously gods that do not belong to us, and no matter how we fawn on him, he will not bless us. If we insist on offering sacrifices to him, this is an excessive sacrifice and an invalid sacrifice. Won't do any good. Excessive sacrifices bring no blessings. This is the famous saying in Book of Rites Che Ruoshue. A scholar in the Southern Song dynasty ridiculed those stupid phenomena in his book Berry Collection. How could a monk be a psychic medium in these matters of replacing witches with monks? The Beishi Zi written by Qin Shun pointed out that the relationship between descendants and ancestors has the same blood source and is connected by veins, so they are very cordial. When worshipping the ancestors, the descendants are very pious, and they can have a spiritual connection with the ancestors if there is only piety, but the sacrifice is not one's ancestors and gods. Telepathy cannot occur, and of course it is impossible to be blessed. Therefore, praying to God and worshipping Buddha and believing in Christ are all excessive sacrifices. Confucius has long criticized, it is obviously not your clan's ghosts and gods, but you still want to worship them, which is shameless flattery. Jesus did not say a word to help the Hmong people, and there is not a word about the Hmong people in the Bible, but Chi Yu did so much for the Hmong people. Comparing Chi Yu's death with Jesus' death, Chi Yu paid more, and he suffered for our Hmong people. After suffering tremendous pain, he saved us with his flesh and blood. When he was enduring the most painful torture, he still wanted to protect the Hmong people. After his death, he still used his divine power to protect our Hmong people. He turned into a maple forest to protect our Hmong people. We have always followed living in the way Chi Yu taught. All kinds of festivals and marriage etiquette were formulated by Chi Yu. So we should believe in Chi Yu, not Jesus, and we should unite in the name of Chi Yu, who is our patron saint. We should give up false beliefs, because belief in a God who is not ours is invalid. Chi Yu is our Hmong people's own God, and the Hmong people should unite in the name of Chi Yu.